Welcome to Kevin's Garage. Unfortunately, I lost the audio for this opening video when I shot it, so I'm going to have to do this in a voiceover format. But welcome. Let's take a look and talk about this here. Oh, boy, the damage. So I can't urge you enough when you go out to park carefully. And generally, when I take the car out, I will only park it in what I would consider good parking spots. Well, we were out, we went to a place, it was kind of late, it was really packed. None of what I considered good parking spots were available. So I parked the car in a long row of cars. What I also didn't really consider at the time, but now it stands out to me looking back, was that there was a street light out. So I parked it on the street in a long row of cars. There was a street light out, so it was dark. And the other thing was, I'm pretty sure right in front of the Corvette was a minivan. And so when the person pulled up and they looked in their rearview mirror, between the height and just the overall profile of the minivan, I just don't think that they saw the Corvette at all. There was also another vehicle behind it that was much taller than the Corvette. These cars are very short, very easy to see over the top of. Pretty much anything on the road other than a Miata is going to eclipse your Corvette. So it's never a good idea to park in the middle. All it takes is to get some large vehicles around and people just can't see your car, and along comes some godless heathen who backs into your car and then will probably drive away. But it's not going to do any good to cry about the godless heathens of the world, and there are some things that we can do to avoid this. Now, like I said, I take this car out on a regular basis. I drive this car a lot, and I haven't had anything like this happen before, but I settled for what I would consider a not good parking spot, long row of cars. There was a light out, it was dark, and I parked in behind a minivan, which like I said, it will eclipse your car, certainly in a rearview mirror. And I believe that somebody pulled up, looked in the rearview mirror, just didn't see the Corvette, attempted to back in and hit the front right corner of the vehicle with their bumper and part of their rim, and it scratched it, and it rubbed off all this rubber onto the bumper. In this particular picture, the shadow is covering a bunch of damage and scratches and rubber, but we'll see it in this next video. So these are the tools that I used and how I treated this, and it came out pretty good. Let's take a look. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do to treat this is just spray some water on a pad here and take some isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to mix it up a little bit, kind of do a live mix. And my goal here is to get the rubber from the tire mark off. And I'm just going to put this on a little wax applicator pad. Get that mixed up, and hopefully we can pull this rubber off of here. Oh yeah, that's working really good. Nice. Really well. Put it on, just kind of let it sit a little bit. Come back, and look at that. It's wiping that rubber from the tire right off. Nice. Beautiful. Wow, that worked really well. I am super happy with those results. Just going to clean up a little bit around it. That looks 10 times better. All right. I want to give a shout out to Colton Sylvie from Sylvie Solutions. He sells different car care products. He gave me the tips on using the isopropyl alcohol mixed with water to pull off the rubber marks. And I've heard of that before, but I've never actually used it. I've generally just buffed it off with polish and compound. But this worked really good, and I like that now when I polish this, there's not going to be this rubber present staining that clear coat when I polish it. Just a little bit left. Wow. This really does work great. I can't even believe how well this works. I am not going to have to do very much polishing at all. It came out great. Now there is a small dig right here where I believe the rim of the vehicle contacted this bumper a little bit. And we're going to have to see what kind of progress we can make with the buffer with that. And there is a little bit of paint chipping right there. That is not going to come out. We got a little more rubber up here that we can get off. Oh, that looks terrific. Wow, I'm really happy with that. I'm just going to lightly wipe down the area around it a little bit. And I am going to be polishing, compounding, quickly and easily compounding and polishing and putting 2 coats of wax back on this area, which is definitely something when you want to do when you use isopropyl alcohol. It's just coming out more and more. Wow. What a difference. Boy, that really... Now, if we get a little bit closer here, you can see there's a scratch right here and there's some scratching down in here. And the first thing I'm going to do is run over this with some... Actually, I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to compound it because it's going to have to be compounded. Those scratches are not going to come out with polish. I'm going to try to get this camera off to the side so that you guys can see me compounding. So I got my polisher here. First thing I'm going to do is spray some water on it. It'll help work the product. And then shake this compound up a little bit. Just going to put I'm not going to need a lot for this. Just going to dabble a little bit on there. That's nice. That's good. Probably more than we need, but take the product, put it on the car like so. Scratches are mostly here. I'm going to spin it over here so I don't sling any stuff all over the car. We'll start at 1900. It's definitely an improvement. Definitely looks better. We definitely got some of these small marks out. I'm going to step up the speed a little bit to I'm going to go to 2100. Not really feeling too much heat. Now, this is 39-year-old paint, so I don't want to mess with it too bad. Again, we're going to apply it right here. I'm going to spin up my buffer over here so I don't sling stuff all over the car. a little bit better. Definitely getting some heat now. Okay, almost gone. Wow. Okay, so now you can see this scratch is almost entirely gone. This buffer has just taken it down on both sides. There's just the slightest remnant right there, and you got some really light ones down here. I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna go up on speed anymore. I'll go to 2200. I'll go to 2200, and I'm just gonna hit this one more time. If this was a newer car, I might try a little harder, but with 39-year-old paint, I just don't want to go too much further than that. But you can see the scratch is almost gone. We're just gonna try to pull this out a little bit, and then I'm just gonna polish it quick and do the 2 coats of wax. Oh yeah, that is 10 times better than it was. Get the product on our scratches. All right. Spin it up over here so we don't sling it all over the car. Wow. Wow, that is almost 100% gone. Let me grab a terry cloth. Oh yeah, from the garage you can't see anything at all. I can't believe that one came out like that. That is really good. That came out great. Now you've got some little bit of a mark right here and here, but you're going, I don't want to mess with them. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to come back and hit this one a little bit more. I think we can pull some of this rubber. Where's this isopropyl alcohol? I think we can do a little better on this one. Yeah, there we go. That's better. I just don't, this is a tough spot. All right, that's better. All right. Okay, I'm going to try to clean that up a little bit. It's tough with a buffer because it's so big. I'm going to put a little of this compound on the edge of this buffer. We're going to try to get in there a little bit better. Spin it out over here. Oh yeah, 10 times better. All right, let's get our Saker. So now, because we compounded, I am going to grab our little Saker buffer here, and we'll just take some polish. And this might help that scratch a little bit, but I doubt it much. Spin it out down low. I'm going to slow it down just a little. Yeah, that helped those scratches a little. Oh yeah, wow, look at that. I mean, this is a big scratch right there with dark color in it. Now it's almost completely gone. And now we're just gonna take some wax, a little moisture here. Put some wax on this. Oh. And what we're gonna do is cover our buffing pad with the wax removal cloth. All right, and there we go. We got our buffing pad underneath and our wax removal cloth on top. And we're going to slow the speed down to about a 3. Yeah, that's good. And then we're going to do second coat of wax. Make sure we get plenty on here. We'll let it dry, buff it off, and then we will glue this piece, epoxy this piece back down even with the other. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is get that epoxy in there and then use this control handle off of this tripod to hold that piece perfectly even and level so that when the epoxy dries, it's perfect. All right, let's do this. So, pull this piece back out. Okay, I got some pieces I can bond to in there. I can get some epoxy on. All right, let's just do it. This off. Got some for hopefully never next time. What kind of godless heathen backs into somebody's Corvette and then just drives away? Oh, man. Sure, it was an accident. This is what happens when you go shady places and park in not good places. But seriously, there's usually a spot, two or three spots that I park this car. This particular night, we went somewhere and it was kind of late, and I just parked it like right in the middle of a line of cars, like right on the street, like just in a bad spot. And I just think somebody was pulling up, didn't see the car because it sits so low, and they tried to back into that spot and just tagged this corner of the car. I actually think I know who did it, but I'm not pointing any fingers. Not pointing any fingers. And at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. We'll fix it. Of course, this isn't, a factory fix. This isn't the ideal way to do it. Replacing this piece would be the way to go, but the problem is that you have to take the front bumper apart to replace this piece. As much as I would love to, I would love to just buy this rub rail and just replace it, but you have to take the front bumper apart to get to it, and I just don't think that the end product is going to, in taking the bumper apart, possibly looking at getting paint work done and all of that is going to be a better route. I think, something's not going to come out right with the paint. It won't be shaded right. And at the end of the day, this is going to have just as good of a result, I think. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, that's in there. That's nice. Yeah, that's perfect. Put this here. Get this on there. And that's it. Now we just got to give her a few minutes, let it dry, and hope for the best. All right, so while that is epoxy is drying that piece on, let's just go over real quickly again the tools that we used. So this is a DeWalt buffer. To me, this is what I use for heavy cut compound for buffing. So we use 3M Super Duty rubbing compound. I have an extension piece on the buffer, and it's got and I'm using a wool pad, and then I just take a little bit of water and spray it on there. My water bottle is leaking, so I don't keep it in the crate with water in it because it makes a mess. So spray a little water on there. It helps the product work. Put a little product on there, dab it on the paint, spin it up off to the side so you don't get stuff all over your car. And again, I have a little extension in here to get the pad away. That's something you're going to need if you pick one of these up. Another thing that's nice about this DeWalt buffer is you have an RPM selector right here. You may have heard me talking about this. So generally with cut compound, I'll kick it off at like 1800. And then if it looks like I'm cutting down the clear, I'll move it down to 16. If it looks like we're not having the effect we want, you can move it up. Like if you want more aggression. And again, with the cut compound, you want a fixed circular machine, not a random orbital, because we're trying to generate heat. That's how we get those scratches out of that clear coat. And I like using the wool pad, and I like using the cut compound. Started about 1800, and then on this car, I moved it up to 2000, and then I think I went to 2200 for the last pass. And you get this thing spinning 2200 RPMs with that cut compound behind it. and it will just warm up that clear coat, and just those scratches just like magic, poof, they just go away. This is a great tool. I use a lot of Ryobi stuff. So here's something else. This is a DeWalt 20-volt max, but I use a lot of Ryobi tools, and I have Ryobi batteries. So just something kind of, as an option, so you're aware. This is a battery converter that I picked up off of eBay, and this converts, trying to do this one-handed, this converts the DeWalt to Ryobi batteries. So if you have another manufacturer's batteries, like I happen to have a lot of, like I said, a lot of Ryobi stuff. I love the Ryobi impact gun, and I use all Ryobi stuff and weed whackers and everything else. So I have plenty of these Ryobi batteries. You don't necessarily have to buy DeWalt. Now, for a boat with a color stripe and gel coat, this is a priceless tool. Only way to go. This thing is awesome. This is great for boats. The next tool I used was this little Saker buffer, and I'll tell you what, the more I use this thing, the more I like it. This is a great little tool. You can pull wax off with this, and you can polish with this. I do recommend picking up a different pad for polishing. This is a 3D pad. It's a little heavier. It's got these squares. I like the way it holds the product better. You can use less product when you have these split square pattern like this, but it will still remain. And that's what I like about it. I like these pads a little better than what comes with the machine, but the ones that come with it will get the job done. And then when you're pulling the wax off, you want to use this. But even if I'm just pulling wax off, I will put that polish pad underneath, and then I'll put this on top. And if I was to just say this car, just wash this car and wax this car, I'd wash it, I'd put the wax on, with an applicator, in the wax right there, and then I would just use this machine to pull it off. I'd put it at about 3. This guy comes with 2 batteries. If you're doing wax, I didn't even kill a battery doing 2 coats of wax on this car. If you're polishing with it, you're putting a little more pressure on it. You'll wear that battery down. I got through about 90% of the car on one battery, and then switched to the other battery and did the rest of the polishing and pulled all the wax off. This thing has never failed me like in a single day. Those 2 batteries are good enough for me. Now, you could compound with this, but this is a random orbital. It doesn't just spin in a fixed circle. It moves in a random pattern, because when you're doing polish, you're not really looking for too much heat. And when you're pulling wax off, you're definitely not losing. You don't want heat. And that random orbital helps prevent like buffing a pattern and stripe lines in the way you're holding the machine and the pattern you're taking and pulling the wax off. The random orbital motion will avoid translating that pattern that you're taking into the wax. You won't necessarily see it. Like if you just say you have a fixed spinning machine like this one, and you could put different, a wax pad on there. If you were to go down that in a straight line and pull wax off, you wouldn't necessarily stand out to you. But if that car sat in the sun, you would see that line going through. You would see it. So the random orbital helps avoid. The other thing is this is light. You can use this thing for hours and hours and hours. That thing will wear you out. It's heavy. So I use this for cut compounding heavy scratches out. And I use this for buffing. When you use the cut compound, you're going to leave swirl marks. You're going to leave some kind of swirl marks. No matter how good you are, you're going to get some kind of swirl marks when you're using cut compound. The polish, right there in the purple bottle, will take those swirl marks out, and it will also take some of the smaller scratches out. And then you throw 2 coats of wax on top to finish the product. So you got these 3 products right here: cut compound most extreme on the left, polish in the middle, and then wax on top. And those are the 2 machines that I'm using. There are other machines. There are higher end machines. This is kind of high end, this buffer right here. But there's also buffing machines specifically designed for cars that's lighter than this. So just keep that in mind. These are the tools that I'm using. There is better polishers that will last a lot longer if you're doing more cars, but these tools will get the job done. And really, if you had to, you could do some compounding with this tool here if you just had this one. I've compounded by hand and got scratches out. So it just, it depends on your budget and what you're looking to do. If you have a boat with a color stripe, that's the tool. That's the one, man. That is a great tool for that. But moving back over here, and then of course the first thing I used before I did any of those 3 steps was I just took some isopropyl alcohol, mixed it with water on an applicator pad, and that's how we got all of our rubber off of there. And if you take a look, I mean, man, does it look good. I mean, that damage is gone. There was a big kind of honking scratch right there that I didn't even think we were going to get it out. And that buffer with that wool pad, it took that scratch out of there. You want to pull those types of scratches out. I feel like this type of machine is really what you need to hit that heat in that specific spot and get that flaw out of that paint. You're going to want something like that. That tool may have had a hard time getting that job done. But for the polishing and the waxing, great tool, that little guy there. It came out really great. I'm super happy with it. I've just got my tripod here, my larger tripod, holding that piece level with the other trim piece while the epoxy dries. It's been drying for 10 minutes. I mean, I could probably take it off there right now, but I'm going to wait just a few more minutes. Those are all the products that I used, and the techniques and why I used them. And actually, just real quick, I also used this epoxy right here. I just used JB Weld, plastic weld. And again, I picked this kit up that has all these different applicators. I'll tell you something. I feel like every job I do around the garage, I'm using this to put grease on a joint or to do something, or, I'm using these things all the time. I used 2 of them. I used one with the backside to mix up the epoxy in the ditch in this little, this is just the bottom side of a plastic water bottle I cut off as a little mixing tray. So I mixed it up with one of them. I didn't want to get it all over my hands, so just throw it on the ground there, let it dry, and then I used the other one to get the epoxy on there. And then what I did was I just very carefully held it out a little bit, and I put epoxy inside a little bit, and then I put epoxy on the plastic points that had broken away from that strip that were attached to the metal clip that's part of the bumper. And after I got epoxy spread out on all those things, I just pushed this back on top of it. And again, I'm just using the camera adjustment arm to hold it perfectly in place. Unfortunately, in here, to take this rub rail off, you have to take the bumper all apart and stuff. And by the time that was all said and done, I may have had to get paint work involved. And I figured I would at the very least give this a try. I may have to come back around and address that rub rail if it doesn't hold in well. But the other problem is, like, these rub rails have a little bit of aging. So, like, if I was going to replace that one, it wasn't going to match this one. Then I had to replace that one. Then that one is going to be a little different than that. And I just, like, where is it going to end? We're going to wind up with a whole new car. So I decided to go this route. I think it's going to come out really well. It still matches all the other rub rails on the car. It'll have a factory look, and I think this corner is going to look good. And I'm just going to let that stay on there for about 20 minutes while I put everything away, and then we'll take a step back and look at the repair and how it came out, and we'll compare it to what it looked like before. All right, it's time for the reveal. Am I going to pull this tripod away and that piece is going to come popping out, or I don't think so. We're good. We're good. All right. Wow, that looks 10 times better. So as you can recall, this corner before was just all marked up in here. There's a nice big scratch in the middle. You could even see from way back here. That front trim plastic piece was hanging out. Yeah, that came out great. I mean, we are about 15 feet from the car right now, and you can't even tell that anything ever happened to that corner. And then we are now 5 feet from the car, and you still can't even really tell that anything ever happened from that corner, even from looking above the camera. This is a little bit zoomed. Where's 1X? There we go. There's 1X. Looks perfectly fine. Now, if we get right right up to it. There's still a little tiny mark right there, but check out like that big scratch in the middle. Look at that compound and that wool pad. Just took that right down. There's still a little tiny scratch right there, and I just didn't want to dig at these too much. I'll take a cloth when I clean this up a little more. You can always do a little bit of clear. I'll probably spray some clear at some point on these, and that will hide them. But for now, I'm going to leave it like that. But this was scratched here. There were scratches all through here. There was black rubber all over. It really came out 10 times better. I'm really happy with it. Anyways, that's how I did that repair. Well, thanks for stopping by Kevin's Garage. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you think you'd like to see some more, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.